Hi, I'm Brian Bosper with the Tri-Economic Growth Corporation, Detroit Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Just wanted to let everyone know that we will get started at 5 minutes after. So we just wanted to give everyone a few minutes to deal with any technical glitches here. We still have a lot of people joining in, so we will give it a few more minutes just to make sure everyone who wanted to get in is able to do so. All right, it is 5 after 5. So in the interest of respecting everyone's time, we will get the meeting started. We'll start off with an overview of the project or of how the meeting will happen tonight. We still have more folks joining in, but I'll go over the agenda, the format for tonight while people are coming in. And then we will get started in on the formal presentations for tonight. So tonight's presentation, we will have an overview of how Brownfield TIF and the Transformational Brownfield Plan works. We'll also have an overview of the process for how Brownfield TIF and Transformational Brownfield plans are approved. And then I'll talk about where we are in the process and then talk about the District Detroit request, and the developers will then present on the project. We will have a question and answer session. So we know that while this project is part of the neighborhood advisory committees and the community benefits ordinance presentations, there may be some people who this may be the first time that they've been able to see a presentation about the project. So we will have a Q&A portion of it. We will end the question and answer period at 6 p.m. Or whenever there's no additional questions. So whichever comes first. We will be limiting the Q&A to 1 minute per person, or at least the first round. And then if we do have additional time available, we will allow for additional rounds if permitted. And after the question and answer, we will have a formal public comment period. The formal public comments again will be 1 minute long, and the public comment, just so that everyone understands, will go into the minutes for this meeting today. The minutes go to the Brownfield Authority Board and City Council for that. So your comments will be a part of the record for this project. So that is the format for tonight. So we can get started. And stop for public comment. We will be, or for the question and answer, either use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're on your phone, press *9 for that. So as we get closer to public comment period and question and answer period, we will review that again, just as a reminder. If you would like to submit public comment by email, so if you're not sure about what you would want to say tonight, or maybe you have a group that would like to think about it, feel free to send public comment to Cora Kapler, who's a staff member of the Detroit Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and DGC. Her email is on the screen here. I know that we have a few people joining by phone as well, so I'll verbally give the email address. It's Kapler, C-A-P-L-E-R, so C-C-A-P-L-E-R @degc.org. So written comments can be sent there as well. Written comments received by the end of the day, Tuesday, February 7th, tomorrow, will be included in the board package that goes to the board of directors, which will be meeting on Wednesday of this week. Questions or public comment received after that can still get sent though to City Council. So we will continue to gather public comments sent by email. And those will be sent to City Council for their March 2nd is right now tentatively scheduled for the public hearing at City Council. So that's the timeline for that. And if you have any additional questions about the project, again, please email Cora, and Cora will be coordinating the responses to any questions you might have. So that's the housekeeping for tonight. And so I will begin on tax increment financing and how it works. And so tax increment financing, or TIF, at its most basic, works by freezing the taxes that are currently paid on a property. Here it's called the baseline valuation on this chart, with the dashed yellow line at the bottom. Freezes the taxes at that rate. The project happens at the development site, and as a result of that, the taxes increase. The light blue or the gray shaded area there. And as those taxes increase, the developer is able to capture those taxes to pay for improvements that they've made to the site. And then once the project completes its reimbursement of the tax increment finances, the TIF reimbursement, in the case of the projects being talked about tonight, it will be 30 years. It would be the maximum that they're allowed to receive capture for. Then the TIF plan will sunset. And at that point, then all taxing jurisdictions receive the full value of that. So with TIF, there's a large leap in taxes paid after the developer finishes their capture. In no way do the existing taxes paid, are they reduced? Those taxes continue to be captured for the life of the Brownfield plan and the Transformational Brownfield plan. It's the portions of the increase are what are captured by the developer with TIF. The reason that we offer Brownfield TIF in the city of Detroit, the city council and the mayor approve projects for it, is to encourage the redevelopment of blighted, contaminated, and functionally obsolete properties, as well as historic properties. Many times those projects have higher costs to redevelop than, say, a greenfield site on the edge of the suburbs would cost. And so in order to help level the playing field and to encourage the redevelopment of previously developed property in the city, that is the reason that we offer tax increment financing in the city of Detroit. Just so that everyone understands the mechanics, again, of this is the TIF is not paid to the developer until the developer proves the eligibility of the costs, the reasonableness of the costs, and that they are in compliance with all city, state, and federal regulations. In the case of TIF, the developer is reimbursed annually, so once a year over the time period there. And again, when the developer is fully reimbursed or 30 years is reached, then the TIF plan sunsets and expires. So that is how TIF works. I will next talk about where we are in the process for the Brownfield process. So a little context first. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, or DBRA, consists of a 9-member board of directors, and they're assisted by a 9-member permanent standing community advisory committee. So our Brownfield board on January 30th, last week, Monday, held their public meeting that was rescheduled from the Wednesday previous due to the snowstorm. And that board met. They recommended moving the Brownfield plan to the public hearing, which we're having tonight, and they also recommended moving it to the Community Advisory Committee. The Community Advisory Committee met also 30th, and the Community Advisory Committee recommended to the Brownfield Board recommended approval of the Transformational Brownfield Plan we'll be talking about tonight. What will happen next is at the next Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board, which we held this Wednesday, February 8th at 4 p.m. At that meeting, the Brownfield Board will vote on the Brownfield Plan. So we will take the minutes again from tonight's public hearing, and we will give that to the board for their consideration at Wednesday's DBRA board meeting. After the DBRA board meeting, if the Brownfield Authority Board votes to recommend approval of the plan, it then moves on to City Council. The first thing that will happen is the Planning and Development Department, Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee will hold a public hearing. That happens at Thursday mornings sessions at 10 o'clock. Right now, this Brownfield plan is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, March 2nd at 10 o'clock a.m. We will have confirmation of that once council refers it to the committee. But right now, that's the spot being held for it. After the public hearing happens, if that committee moves it on to the full city council, it will then, at the next council full session, be voted on. The committee of the whole is the formal name for it. So that's the Tuesday morning sessions. And so if council voted to approve the plan as a whole, the next step then, since this is a transformational brownfield plan, would be then it has to move on to the Michigan Strategic Fund Board, which is a state board that meets in Lansing. We don't have a date confirmed for that yet, but usually it comes 1 to 2 months after the city council vote would be the Michigan Strategic Fund Board. So that is the process and where we're at in the process tonight. Again, we are on step number 2 here of the process. So there's still plenty of opportunity for public comment for this process. Now I will get into the specifics of the District Detroit Transformational Brownfield Plan. So I did want to note that there's several aspects in many projects that are part of this plan. We will just tonight be talking about the aspects that are in the Transformational Brownfield Plan. So just some background about how a Transformational Brownfield Plan differs from a traditional Brownfield Plan, a traditional Brownfield TIF. So in 2017, the state amended the act to authorize transformational brownfield plans. And these enabled new TIF captures and new TIF structures to help fund high cost projects that would provide transformational or extraordinary benefits to the local communities and to the state. In addition to the property tax capture, which is part of a traditional brownfield plan and still a part of a transformational brownfield plan, it also allows certain income tax and state tax revenues to be captured. So I'll get into those details in a little bit on the presentation here. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide gets into more detail about what the difference between a traditional brownfield plan and the transformational brownfield plan. So you see in the middle column there, we have 4 types that I talked about earlier of how you qualify. The transformational brownfield plan still has to qualify with those same qualifications. In the case of these projects, they're either historic resources or they are considered facilities, or which is another legal name of saying contaminated. The minimum investment with the traditional brownfield plan, there's no minimum investment required. With a transformational brownfield plan, there's a $500 million minimum investment required, and this is for cities the size of Detroit. The costs that can be covered, traditional brownfield plan are specific limited construction costs. With the transformational brownfield plan, all construction costs are eligible for reimbursement with the transformational brownfield plan. And as I talked about earlier, the incremental taxes, the traditional property taxes are part of the transformational brownfield plan, as well as the traditional brownfield plan, again, for 30 years for both, where things have additional revenues that can be captured is construction materials. It's 100% sales tax exemption. And again, it's a state sales tax, so the state is providing that exemption. For construction labor, there's a 100% state income tax capture. And so again, it's the state income tax capture. The city income tax capture is not captured at all by the transformational brownfield plan. So the city captures 100% of the city income tax for construction labor on the project. For permanent employees, the transformational brownfield plan allows for 50% of the state income tax capture to be captured for people that work at the projects in the transformational brownfield plan for up to 20 years. And again, that's the state income tax. The city income tax is captured by the city in full for the project. And then for development residents, for transformational brownfield plans, where an affordable housing plan is part of the project, the state allows a 100% capture of state income taxes from residents at the site for up to 20 years. And again, there's no capture on the city income tax, so the city receives the full capture of the city income tax. Next slide, please. So here are the projects that are a part of the brownfield plan in the transformational brownfield plan. And there's 10 projects in total. See here that the total development costs for each project and the state taxes that contribute the state revenues that go towards this, and then the property tax TIF. We did want to note that there's no city contribution, no city taxes being contributed through the Transformational Brownfield Plan for this project. In total, the Transformational Brownfield Plan is requesting $616 million, approximately, round figures for the projects. You'll note that at the top column there, it says that the project will receive that capture over 35 years. So there is a phasing of projects. Some projects will not start construction and start capturing until the 5th year of the Transformational Brownfield Plan. So each project gets to capture the Transformational Brownfield Plan revenues for a total of 30 years. And so that's the 35-year period to allow for that 5-year ramp up of projects. So of that $616 million, though, developer does have to finance the entire project by themselves. The tax benefits only come to the developer if they build the project. If the project is not built, there is no increase in taxes to provide to the developer. And so therefore there's no tax benefit given to them. So with the Transformational Brownfield Plan, if the developer was to finance the $616 million and use that incentive to provide upfront financing for construction costs, the present value of that today would be $256 million. And so that is the today's value of that tax incentive. Next slide, please. And so here's a breakdown of the captures from the Transformational Brownfield Plan by source, construction, and by each project. So the construction, sales and use tax exemption, construction income tax captures, again, commercial state withholding, the state residential income tax, property tax TIF, and then again, how that adds up to the $616.3 million. All of this information is located in the Transformational Brownfield Plan, the District Detroit Transformational Brownfield Plan. If you go to degc.org/DBRA, you will see our brownfield plans there on the general information tab. And so we always have our brownfield plans that are under consideration available in full for download there. So this District Detroit Transformational Brownfield Plan is available to read in its whole by anyone who wishes to do so. The next slide, please. So to summarize then the TP and how this fits into the full tax incentive request for the project. Again, the tax incentives, the City of Detroit General Fund will not be providing any taxes through the Transformational Brownfield Plan, nor is the Detroit Public Schools. DDA would otherwise capture those taxes, but the Transformational Brownfield Plan is not capturing either of those funds. The Downtown Development Authority has voted to provide $48 million for affordable housing and for infrastructure for this project. There's property tax abatements that will be going forward before council, PA 210, Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, or NEZ. There's also traditional brownfield TIF that I just talked about, the $214 million plus the transformational revenues, again, which are all state funds, and that's $402 million. And so in total incentives over 35 years for this project would be $798 million. And again, that assumes the project's fully built out. The developer receives nothing if they don't build out the projects. And they have to also fill the projects with the residents and the workers that they expect to be in the buildings. And again, they do not receive any of the incentives until they actually perform on those incentives. So that is completes my summary of the transformational brownfield plan. Next, we want to have the developer present on the transformational brownfield plan, all of the projects that are part of it. And so we will get the development team unmuted and on video here, and they can get their presentation started here. And then we will again have a Q&A session right after this for any questions that you might have. And that'll go up until 6 o'clock or until we have everyone's questions answered. And then at 6, we will start formal public comment. So development team. Well, Tina, if you could start turning your video on to be able to do that. There we go. Let's see.
Got us, Brian?
Yes, I think we had a couple settings we had to adjust here. Right. So District Detroit team, whenever you're ready, feel free to start. And when you want to slide, when you're ready for the next slide, just let us know.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Brian. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Keith Bradford, and I lead the Olympia development team here.
I'm Andrew Cantor. I'm the Executive Vice President for Development for the related companies.
And I am Ryan English Barnhill, and I serve as Vice President of Government and Community Affairs for Olympia Development of Michigan.
Great. Okay, next slide. But just a brief overview of what Olympia has been up to over the last 5 years. Many of these images that you see here, most people are very, very familiar with. But you saw on the previous slide, we are about trying to make a difference in the lives of people in Detroit. And we do that through affordable housing, job creation, historic renovation, placemaking, et cetera. And so here's just some images, whether it's the Eddystone, which opened a little over a year ago, the Little Caesars headquarters building, the Mike Gillett School of Business at Wayne State, Arena, et cetera, are all examples of how we have been trying to do that over the last few years. Next slide. Thank you. In addition, there's a lot of retail has opened up in the last few years. In the top left corner, you see an image of the San restaurant that just opened up inside the Eddystone, along with several restaurants along Columbia Street, Union Assembly, and JoJo's Shake Bar, and then Sahara will be opening here with by opening day this year, and then Tin Roof in the middle there with a great live entertainment option for our residents of Detroit.
Next slide,
Next slide, please. Thank you. One thing that you saw first on our list was affordable housing and historic renovation. So I just wanted to highlight a few of those. Eddystone, I did mention. All of these have an affordable component to it. So the Eddystone was a historic renovation up in the top right-hand corner. 92 units with 20% of those at 80% AMI. We're very proud of our partnership with the Bagley Development Group. It's a minority developer here in town at 150 Bagley with 148 units, again with 20% affordable at 80% AMI. We hope to soon break ground at the Henry Street Apartments, 170 historical units here. 50% of those units will be affordable, and with affordable starting as low as 30% of AMI. And then finally, third and Charlotte, a little over 60 units there. And this is our first venture with Related, as well as the Platform Group, where that's 100% of the units there are affordable and all at 80% AMI.
And so just looking at the overall project benefits here, we are bringing forward a tremendous amount of construction jobs, affordable housing, office, retail, and hotel jobs, hospitality jobs associated with those two hotels, a tremendous amount of shopping and dining, development of our surface lots. That is something we heard over and over again in our 2 years of community engagement throughout the city. The desire to see surface lots go away and to go vertical with development, and the revitalization of historic buildings, bringing our historic assets back to life. Next slide.
So in all, what we're talking about represents 10 buildings. There are 11 actually shown here because Henry Street is also included in this map. All of the buildings with hatching on them are historic buildings that are being put back into service or renovated and repositioned, and then everything with a solid color is a new construction ground up project on a surface lot. This represents more than 1 million square feet of office development, 150,000 square feet of shops and dining, nearly 500 hotel rooms, and all in all 865 mixed income residential units. Within the 10 projects, excluding Henry Street, we're talking about 20% of all the residential units at 50% of AMI. And that number actually, the affordable percentage actually goes up when you include Henry Street significantly up to, I believe, 26%. The AMIs that we're talking about, just to be clear, that's area median income at 50% represent rents that are approximately $700, $800, $900 as compared to $2,200 on a market rate unit that would be indistinguishable from that affordable unit. So significant investment in affordable housing, and in what we heard, a requirement and a desire for deeply affordable housing. Just to highlight sort of the other strategy around this development, the goal is to create nodes of activity, mixes of uses, and walkable destinations so that people can live in the same area irrespective of what job they have. They can live in the area where they work, they can dine, they can shop, all within walking distance, and to support streetscape and retail throughout the downtown area. Next slide, please. A critical catalyst for this project is the Detroit Center for Innovation, which is a new $250 million innovation center that will be operated by and built by the University of Michigan. This is a significant investment by the university that is being funded by a $100 million philanthropic contribution from Related's founder and chairman, Stephen Ross, a matching grant from the state of $100 million, and then additional private philanthropy that will be fundraised by the university. This project is expected to support hundreds of students and thousands of programs for upskilling and retraining for Detroit residents as well as Michigan residents to allow for more of Michigan's population and Detroit's population to participate in the knowledge economy and access the types of jobs and industries that are growing today. Next slide, please. Because of that catalyst, as well as the shortage of high quality office space in downtown Detroit, the first project that we intend to kick off the overall plan with is 2200 Woodward, which is this 500,000 square foot office building that will be located directly in front of Comerica Park on a current surface parking lot. This project is expected to generate approximately 2,000 construction jobs as well as 2,000 permanent jobs with a public plaza that sits directly in front of Comerica Park, connecting the ballpark to Woodward with shops, dining, and a great community space. Next slide, please. Across the way from the office building, when we talk to prospective tenants about taking space in the building, many of the questions that we receive relate to residential in the area and the need for there to be more options for their employees, these tenant employees, to live. And so we are planning a residential building, 2250 Woodward, on the other side of the plaza with a retail base, so shops and restaurants on the ground floor, and then residential above. This building will include 20% of all of the units, so 58 of the units will have those low rents, the 40 and 50% of AMI that I mentioned earlier, and those units will be indistinguishable from any of the other units in the project. Next slide, please.
Directly across the street, Woodward there, from the building that Andrew just spoke of, the residential, is the Fox Theater. And not only is there a Fox Theater there, but there's the Fox office building above it. And so there's talk today about bringing new office to the market and new types of amenities associated with that. And that's exactly what we're doing here. This office building is dated now for today's user. And so we looked at what's the best use of this type of space. And we've discovered that a hotel would be a perfect fit for the Fox office building. So we're converting this to a new boutique hotel, 177 keys, almost 1,000 construction jobs from this, and over 200 permanent jobs associated with this. And it opens up this beautiful asset now to the public for a phenomenal hotel right in the heart of the entertainment district.
Next slide, please. Across from both of those projects on the other side of Woodward and adjacent to St. John's Church, which you can see in the image on the left, is a smaller office and retail project that we're planning at 2300 Woodward. This is anticipated to create about 600 construction jobs and house about 600 permanent jobs as well. This project was designed intentionally, as you can see, to set back above the ground floor and to stay low to ensure that views of the St. John's Church spire are clear and protected from all perspectives. Next slide, please. And across the street from that project at the corner of 75 and the Fisher Service Drive, as well as the Woodward, is this project. And this is actually a building that will either be located as in the plan at either this location or an alternate location closer to the Center for Innovation. And the thought here is that this would be the final office building to be built in the project. It is planned to respond to either an anchor tenant who wants to be close to Woodward and the action and the density that's already been built there, or closer to the Center for Innovation and the talent and entrepreneurial activities that will be occurring there. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we have an alternate location as well. Same metrics, 2,000 construction jobs, whether built here or in the Woodward Avenue location, and it's about 2,000 permanent jobs expected to be accommodated in this building as well. And so will depend, as I noted, on where anchor tenant demand ends up being located. Next slide, please.
Adjacent to Little Caesars Arena is another hotel project just to the south of the arena. And we're really excited about this. As you can see, it generates 1,000 construction jobs, over 400 permanent jobs, and almost 300 hotel rooms associated with the project. We're really excited in the fact that, so many tourists come down to our wonderful venues, whether it's Ford Field, the ballpark, or even Little Caesars Arena. And this is, has been rated as high as the second busiest venue in the country. And many times those visitors are coming into town to see a hockey game or a concert or the Pistons play, and often getting right back into their cars and going into the suburbs of other areas and not spending their dollars in the city. And so a hotel helps protect that, keeps the money being spent here in the city, and it also adds the needed hotel volume to start to support larger events that we've been trying to attract to the city. Large sporting events such as Final Fours, et cetera. So this would be a great amenity to the district. Next slide. And just north off Cass Avenue is another historic asset within the district, the American Hotel. This is somewhat catty-corner to the Eddystone, which is also at Temple and Park, but a residential unit, again, with the same level of affordability that Andrew's been talking about at 50% of AMI, and the 660 construction jobs, 50 permanent jobs, and a total of 131 residential units coming to the Cass and Temple area. Next slide.
Another residential project. This sits directly on the same block as the Center for Innovation that I mentioned earlier. This is a 260 unit new build residential building with 54 deeply affordable units, with the rents I mentioned earlier starting as low as $700 or $800, and all sprinkled throughout the building, meeting the requirements and exceeding the requirements for affordability that are set forth by the city. And then if you go to the next slide, adjacent to that, we are on the same block. We are renovating and expanding the historic Loyal Order of the Moose Lodge building and turning that into an incubator building, which will serve as a home for Detroit-based entrepreneurs and allow the talent and creativity and ingenuity of those studying at the DCI and participating in programs at the DCI to translate that into businesses that drive employment and future innovation. Next slide, please.
And then our final building is the former Detroit Life office building. This is located at the corner of Park and Columbia Street. And again, another example of a gorgeous office building, but maybe as an office use as time has passed. So we're going to convert this to residential, 16 residential units. You can see on the screen the number of construction jobs as well as permanent jobs associated with that. Next slide.
Sure, so I'll wrap up here. So ultimately, as you can see on the screen, 6 new projects, big headlines here, 5 renovated historic projects, 18,000 jobs. This is something that has come up over and over again in all of our community meetings. 12,000 construction jobs and 6,000 ongoing permanent jobs after construction is completed, and 865 mixed income residential units earmarked at the 60% AMI amount throughout the mix of the units. So again, this is not a small amount of development. It is a large scale project, but we're very excited to bring that forward for the transformational change. Next slide, please. And all of this is rooted in our 5 core values. Again, those 2 years of community engagement led us to know that we could effectuate change in these 5 areas, and these came from direct conversations with block club captains, the business community, nonprofits, and we believe we have a responsibility to make inroads in education, employment, economic inclusion, environmental justice, and engagement. And through these projects, we believe that we can do that in a sincere way.
Next slide, please.
And that brings us to the end of our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, development team. And for the next portion of this, we will go into our question and answer and public comment period. I know at the top of the meeting, we had said 6 o'clock would be when we would end things, but I think we've all been a little, talked a little more than planned for, which is quite fine. I want to make sure everyone gets the information that they need. But we will go till 6:15 on that, and then we will do public comment after that. And so the public comment will be limited to 1 minute. Just so if you are thinking about what you'd like to say, just remember that you have 1 minute to make your public comment. The same will be for the Q&A, for the question and answer. So again, the question and answer, please ask that this be for questions about the development. If you have a statement that you'd like to make, please save that for the public comment section. We'd be more than happy to receive that into the public comment. If you have a specific question about the development itself, that is where we're at now with the question and answer period. So we will do a 1 minute question, or allow 1 minute for each person for question and answer. So if we could get the clock on the screen here. Right, we will begin that. Again, raise your hand, the raise hand feature, or if you're on the phone, *9 is what is the raise hand feature. And so we will begin the public comment. First public comment we see is Theo Pride. And so,
excuse me, Brian.
Sure.
These are questions, not public comment.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, the first question we see is Theo Pride. So if you wanted to wait until the public comment period, just feel free to let us know and we'll move on to the next person. So Theo?
I want to make public comment. I'd like to wait.
Okay, we will save that. Thank you. The next person I see is Halima Casellas. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And so Halima, if you wanted to wait to public comment, let us know. Otherwise, feel free to ask your question.
Okay, thank you so much. So a couple of questions that rise to the top. Can you explain how Detroit Public Schools Community District would be unaffected by this TIF? Because it seems like they would have to wait for the benefit of the increased taxes for 2 generations. Also, as increased tax revenues are withheld from the schools, they're paid to the developer. What might be another way that we could support our schools now? Also, what is meant by subject to DDA tax capture for schools? That was in the presentation. Is there a commitment to livable wage for all of the jobs being created? And also, what is the breakdown of the sizes of units that comprise the affordable units? Thank you.
Thank you. So pause here, and the questions that I got was the school capture, the support for that, the size of the units. So I can answer and then the DBA question. The schools question is that the Transformational Brownfield plan, the property tax TIF doesn't capture school debt millages. It does, the DDA captures the school millages for the projects, but that the school district is reimbursed by the state if there's any loss experienced by the state. So there's a formula that exists that for the school district in most cases ends up actually in it receiving more funds than they would have usually, but in no case would they receive less funds than they would have without the projects in place. As far as the units for that, is that something the development team that you'd like to provide information on that?
The plan for the unit mix for the affordable units is that they will follow the unit mix of the rest of the building. So all a consistent mix throughout the building. Thank you.
I will say that's roughly 25% studio, 50% 1 bedroom, and about 25% 2 bedroom in general.
Okay. Hey, that's going to be my follow-up. There's just a little more nuance on the units. And then the DDA capture, the DDA existed before this project was presented. So there's agreements in place regarding that. The next person's hand that I see raised is Susan Steigerwalt. So again, Susan, if you would like to make public comment instead of a Q&A question and answer, feel free to say that. I'll just mute you and keep your hand up. But Susan, go ahead and ask your question. Should be able to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Hello. Hello. My name is Susan Steigerwalt. I've been a Detroit citizen since 1976. And a couple of issues. I feel like this situation, like many of the developments that we've seen, is a transfer of public money into private coffers with little return. I can look at the lack of development around the Little Caesars building, but I'm also concerned with issues like the underfunding of the libraries. And also, probably the most important is we have 19,000 residents that are about to lose their homes because of Wayne County tax issues. And that is about $35 million, and that could easily be brought out if we did not use this money for-profit private businesses. And I think that, and the last thing is, and I should say I'm a member of, last thing, I'm a member of DSA, Democratic Socialist America, is that the affordability of the housing, what would an average 2-bedroom, lower level housing cost, per month?
So thank you for that question from Susan about what would the cost be for a and her question was a 2-bedroom apartment. What would the cost be per month on that? I don't know if you have that fact readily available, development team.
Brian, I don't have that readily available. It is pegged at, based on sort of a standard for Wayne County, right at the 50% AMI level for a 2-bedroom, and set up to ensure that the 30% of that income level is not being exceeded. We can follow up and get that answer to the caller, though, happily.
Yeah, if you could.
I think it's approximately, it's going to be $1,000 a month prior to any kind of utility allowance.
Yeah, that's
Thank you. So $1,000, not inclusive of utilities. Is that what I heard, Keith?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. The next person that I see with their hand raised is M. Pope. M. Pope, I will go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I do have a question and a public comment. Will I be prohibited from making a public comment if I ask a question?
No, you can do both. So we're doing question and answer right now, and then everyone can make a public comment afterwards if you'd like.
I do have a question. So in terms of the project, I want to know, in the retail space, will you commit to abolishing the card-only practices that are currently going on in some of the downtown businesses in your district or in the area? And I think that's very important. And also in terms of Detroit jobs, can you commit to and be very transparent about the hiring of Detroiters for the jobs in construction and the jobs that will be full-time? What I have noticed as a workforce development person is that a lot of jobs downtown Detroit are being farmed out to employment groups, and they're hiring people not necessarily from Detroit, but they're being employed downtown.
Thank you for the question. Oh, I did have one follow-up for you, M. Pope, because you had said a card only. I'm not familiar with that term.
So some of the businesses downtown will not allow you to use cash, particularly in that Woodward corridor, and they're using card only, and that has knocked out a lot, myself included, when I haven't taken a card with me. I can't make a purchase.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So development team had question about credit card only businesses, and then the Detroit jobs. What's the commitment for construction as well as full time? Good answer.
Sure.
That.
We are we're open to exploring the ban on card only for retail. That's something we're happy to consider and have further conversations about. As it relates to employment, we're working closely with Detroit at Work on the workforce side to ensure that the opportunities that are going to come about on the employment are available for Detroiters and are prioritized for Detroiters. We're also committed to being transparent about local hiring throughout the construction process, and are putting plans in place to be able to meet the executive order requiring 51% local hiring. And so as a result of that process, we'll be transparent throughout on a regular reporting basis with the city.
Okay. Thank you for that. The next person I see with their hand, hand raised for the question and answer part is Myra Hyman.
Yes, thank you, Imara Hyman.
Myra, thank you.
Okay, so regarding the tax captures, the current tax captures must stay in place till bonds are paid, projected to be paid off, not to be paid off until 2049. For this project, will there be bonds levied by the DDA or anyone else for these projects? And how and when will taxpaying citizens know when these bonds are levied? Because in fact, you guys are levying bonds in our names, but our taxes have to pay for them. You're not paying for them, we're paying for them. So I'd like to know what that process is. And then again, will any new bonds extend tax-paying Detroiters' obligation to paying off those bonds through those tax captures? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I can answer that question. There are no, excuse me, there are no public bonds being considered for this project. And if there were, that would require the public approval of the public body that would be taking them out. So again, in this case, they are not being contemplated for this project. The next person we see with the hand raised is Kia, K-E-A. Feel free to ask your question.
Yes, hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
All right, so I have two questions. My first question is around the past. You know, you brought up the 80% AMI, you know, giving housing at 80% AMI, 60% AMI. And, you know, I just have concerns about, because of the past and what has happened in the past, of the follow through. I worry about your follow through. So my question for you is, what type of clawbacks will you put in place, or will you voluntarily put in place, so that the community members of City of Detroit will be able to ensure that there's going to be some accountability? Say, for instance, when you no longer have the amount of employees you say you will have. My second question is around the actual workers that you do have. When you have them, and you said it's going to be mostly restaurant jobs, those are not necessarily careers and are not necessarily family supporting wages. So what type of benefits will you be giving your employees? Will you be supporting them, their their children? Will they be receiving bonuses at the end of the year? What type of things? Because that restaurant work keeps coming in the city of Detroit, and it's just not enough to be able to live in the areas that they work. Every place that you have a building, the people that work for you can't necessarily live in the area, and that's just not fair. So I want to know what differences you're going to make this year concerning what you have done in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Brian, maybe go ahead and answer.
Yeah, I was gonna answer the first question is what are the commitments to affordable housing. The city will be enforcing that through the Housing and Revitalization Department, and then any other commitments to construction, workforce, and other similar types of commitments, the community benefits ordinance, those would be done through the Civil Rights Inclusion Opportunity Department, the CREO department, and those will be written agreements with that. And then if the developer doesn't provide the development that's done, again, these are performance-based tax incentives. If the developer didn't produce as many jobs as expected, they would have a reduction in the tax incentive. And then if there was if they did not follow a commitment around Detroit headquartered businesses or other such commitments, then there would be clawback provisions. And then development team, there was the question about workers and the benefits. You can answer that.
Sure, and Brian, maybe just before we go there, I just wanted to add that the caller may not be as familiar with Related, and we are one of the largest owners of affordable housing in the country. On the private side, we have we got our start 50 years ago as an affordable housing developer, and we're proud to say we've never converted a unit from affordable to market rate, and so this is we have a track record that we're happy to point to, and I think will hopefully help to address any concerns around that, as well as the binding agreements that you mentioned we will be entering into with significant enforceability. On the second question, Ryan, do you want to?
Sure, I'll take that. And just to be brief on the job opportunities, we are looking at diversity in jobs, so not just in the food and beverage space, but also hospitality and banking. So jobs like loan officers, tellers, we're looking at computer system analysts, general managers. And so we're looking at jobs across the entire spectrum, not just highly concentrated in food and beverage, particularly in these office towers. We're looking for tenants to take up space in the careers track, as you mentioned. So a true diversity in jobs for everyone to take part in the economic energy in the downtown area.
Thank you. We are making pretty good time here on the question and answer period. Again, we have till 6:15. So if we could keep, as folks are mostly keeping it to the question and answers, is appreciated. So the next person I see is Robert. Again, if you have a question, feel free to go forward with that. If you had something for public comment, we will be making time for that later on. So Robert, so you should be able to.
I would actually like to do both.
Okay, yeah, if you have a question and answer, you can do that now. If you have a statement, you can do that as well later on.
My question is, how do we keep coming to this point where we think that doing some of this stuff, like she was just, the young lady said a couple of people back, how do we keep coming to the point of where we're giving away our city and we're destroying the people and taking away what little wealth they have in the process through all of these tax captures, for one? And I would like somebody there to explain to me, where do you guys really see a benefit for a person, let's say a senior who's been working hard and putting their money into the city and stayed here and worked through all of this hard mess that's going on, the emergency management and all of that. I mean, when is there going to be some relief for the people in the community as opposed to constantly giving our dollars away to billion and millionaires, and then a lot of the stuff that won't even benefit people in my age group anyway. So that's really my question. How does this really benefit that?
Right, thank you. We have the 1 minute time limit. Team, I think the question there was, how does this benefit a longtime Detroiter who's may or may not be interested in moving into one of the apartments there? Is that a question that you'd be able to answer?
I think it has a series of different benefits, including more jobs for people, which increases income, revenue, and opportunities for people to take care of their families. I think it creates more tax revenue. So the tax revenues that are being captured don't exist right now. the dollars that are generated from these properties and taxes today are approximately $250,000 a year that's going to the city general fund. The city general fund is projected on an annual basis to receive $10 million of new revenue every year when these projects are completed. And so those additional dollars pay for things like teachers, firefighters, police officers, and so make meaningful differences for, I think, all Detroiters and their experience and daily life. It also provides places for people to shop, dine, and gather together through the public plazas and green spaces that are planned in these projects. So I think those are all benefits, and the net benefit, even with the tax capture, right, where it's new dollars, new taxes that aren't currently being generated, are projected to create $2.2 billion of net new dollars of tax capture for not the developer, but net for the public side. So for city and state coffers to support all the programs that are critical for our society.
Thank you for that. The next person who has their hand up for the question and answer period is Landis Spencer. So Landis, feel free to, there we go, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Landis Spencer, he, him. I am a resident of North Corktown and a homeowner. I have a couple of questions. One is the property tax, the tax capture, the 50%. Is that 50%, when you're talking about tax captures, is that going to the developer when you say that they can capture up to 50% in state tax revenue? And then another question I want to have is about the comment the gentleman just made about the taxes going to benefit the general fund. We're not expected to get anything back from this project for 35 years. To put that into context, I'm 26. I'll be 61 before this project pays for itself. And in the meantime, there will be increased demand on sewage. There will be increased demand on traffic. There will be increased demand on policing. All of those are coming from the general fund. So what math are you using to tell us here that we are going to see an increase in funds for the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Those are two questions that I can answer. You'd asked about the 50% tax capture. The 50% tax capture is the income tax, state income tax, to be clear, for workers in the buildings that are part of the Transformational Brownfield plan. So that is the capture that is allowed by the state for that. So again, it does not capture the city income tax, just the state income tax. The city income tax is captured in full by the city. And then the general fund revenues, and as stated earlier, the $2.2 billion net benefit to all the taxing jurisdictions, all the governments, the state and the city. Of that, $751 million is a net benefit to the city. That calculation of the $751 million net benefit over the 35 years is a calculation that includes city services. And the primary driver of that net benefit comes from city income taxes. So those are captured in full, again, for the life of the tax incentives. There's also other utility taxes and that sort of thing that are captured, still paid in full. So that is that one. The next question, we got 5 more minutes here for question and answer. The next person with their hand raised is Kenita Good. I believe I pronounced that correct. Apologies.
Yes, Quinita Good. This whole operation reminds me. I grew up in Detroit. My family came to Detroit in the 1950s, so I've seen a lot, and it reminds me of urban renewal when that came through and tore our neighborhoods down and erected Lafayette Park. what you call affordable housing, it sounds real good, but at $700 and $800 a month for a 1-bedroom, and you're giving our children jobs, that only pay $10, $15 an hour. And a lot of times they don't even have medical insurance with these jobs. And there are over 500,000 of us.
All right. Unfortunately, ran out of time, but questions seem to be related to the affordable housing and the price points. It seemed like the caller specifically was wondered about the 1-bedroom units and then the income or I guess hourly wages for the jobs. So development team, would you be able to speak to those two questions?
Sure. So just to, again, double down on the diversity of jobs that we are bringing forward, and also just to address the pipeline of young people. And so we are working lockstep with DPSCD through their Office of College and Careers, one for exposure to a myriad of opportunities.
You have all the skills, you have the intelligence.
Go ahead. Apologize.
So no worries. So to address that opportunity, we want children to be in the pipeline for all careers going forward. Additionally, in regards to the jobs that we are bringing forward, we want to employ Detroiters at the beginning of their career journey, in the middle, and up to the C-suite. We have a commitment to doing that, and that is earnest. And so we are working with, again, DPSCD on the beginning of that continuum. Detroit at Work to solve the problem on the skilled trades, getting more people into that aspect of work. And then again, we aren't the end user of some of these buildings, but we are encouraging tenants to hire Detroiters.
Looks like we have time for one more.
Right. That's what
If you are unmuting you're unmuting yourself without permission of myself, you will be kicked out of the meeting. Please don't do that again. This is your warning. Again, you will be removed from the meeting if you unmute without the permission of myself. Excuse me. Next person see in the meeting that has their hand raised for the question and answer period is Adam. Adam, friends at Bowen Branch Library. Again, this is question and answer.
Just public comment.
Okay, thank you for that. I will keep your hand raised. The next person then on the list is Deb Funder. So Deb, if you have a question for us, feel free. You should be able to unmute. There you go.
Hi, Brian. Vosberg. I'm very, I'm trying to grasp what we're doing here. Because my understanding is that many decades ago, actually, we're trying to save the library. So we're campaigning, everybody vote to support the libraries and pass millages as well as for DPS schools, okay? So that we can provide more funding to these public entities. And then I find out that there isn't a cap that Detroit Economic Growth Corp is able to capture from the city general fund, whatever percentage that they want for their projects that people come for Brownfield, or I guess there's this difference now with the TIF, the tax increment financing. I don't understand where this money is coming from. If it's not coming from the general fund, it's coming from where to pay back, all the construction costs and whatever the percentage of the labor costs are. And I understand that this.
All right. Thank you, Deb.
on the video.
Time there. For the, for this project, everything being proposed is within the state and city regulations, and that's all been determined to qualify for those programs.
That's the first guarantee in our.
All right. So they've all been determined to qualify for the programs that are being requested. So there are not caps on that. That is correct. All right, so with that, we are at the 6:15 time, and I did have to remove someone for not muting themselves while other people were talking. So we will see if they come back. You're welcome to do that, but please, we do need to have, in order to get through everyone's public comments, we do need to have people taking turns on the Zoom platform here. So with that, we are at public comment period. Everyone who wants to speak and give public comment will be able to do so. And again, we also have, if you don't have time tonight or you think of something later, you're still welcome to submit public comment to us. We'll put that slide up at the end with Cora Kapler's email address where you can email in your public comment to us. So with that, we will get started on formal public comment, and everyone's public comment will be kept in the minutes, and it will be sent to the Brownfield board. It will also be sent to the public, to the city council for that. All right, so with that, if we could get the clock reset. All right, I see we are ready. The first person I see on the public comment is Theo Pride. So Theo, I'll unmute you. You should be able to talk. All right. So Theo, you have 1 minute.
Hello, Theo Pry here with Detroit People's Platform. The District Detroit project and the proposed transformational Brownfield will hurt majority Black Detroit, period. It will displace Black people while redistributing resources from the Black public to private white pocketbooks. The proposed benefits fall short in addressing the needs of the average Detroiter. The affordable housing proposed for the project of 50% AMI does not go deep enough to be truly affordable to the Black population in the area, as their median income ranges from $17,000 to $28,000. These people will surely be displaced as the rents rise due to escalating property values. Based on prior evidence, job creation and these deals benefit white suburbanites more than legacy Detroiters. 75% of all the jobs in Detroit are held by suburban residents, and the average wage of a Detroit job is $85,000, but the average wage of a Detroit resident is only $39,000. This tells us that Detroit creates jobs, but Detroiters don't get them. There are no diversity of jobs for Black Detroit. There is only crap.
Thank you, Theo. Bringing into the time ran out. The next person in line is Robert. Robert should be able to unmute yourself. Get the clock restarted. So we have, oh, there we go. All right, Robert, you should be able to unmute yourself. We have some technical difficulties. We'll come back to you, Robert. Adam, Friends of the Bowen Branch, you are up next. Should be able to, oops, I think I accidentally hit the button too many times. Try it again, Adam. Should be able to, there you go.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I keep hearing this deeply affordable housing term, which is generally a justification used for all these tax grabs being levied against the people of Detroit, as well as our millage funded institutions like libraries and schools. to bankroll these private projects. I fail to see how 40 or even 50% AMI is actually affordable to the average Detroiter. I make $20 an hour, which puts me above the average Detroiter, and I'm not looking to have no $800 rent. That's half my monthly income almost. So, yeah, the current AMI standard is unfair because it averages the city into the suburbs and ignores the fact that a third of our city is in poverty, can't even afford food, really. And it seems to me like we're just building an apartheid city here when this is the type of housing that's going in and chasing away the truly affordable options for housing by gobbling up all the land. So, yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you for your comments, Adam. The next person in line is M. Pope. M. Pope, all right, clock is ready. Go ahead, M. Pope.
Good evening. My name is M. Pope. I'm part of the Monolithia Business Community Association and also part of the citywide CBA coalition. And I want to implore that the developer be required to make an annual contribution of $1 million to the Detroit Affordable Housing Trust Fund over the life of the tax abatement period in order to secure brownfield abatements. Also, I want you to understand the Housing Trust Fund is established by ordinance and funds housing development for affordable housing, mostly 30% AMI, which is less than $30,000 a year annual income. We know that development will result in the displacement of low-income households with children as well as low-income seniors. The district, Detroit, will cause the rent to escalate beyond $400 to $700 monthly rent, which is what is affordable just for the majority of Black residents who live in the impacted area. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I'll try Robert again. Robert should be able to press the unmute button. You should be able to speak.
Hello?
Robert. There you are.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
My public comment is that reason why I asked, this is a comment, but I'm gonna put it in all together. But the reason why I asked about how this would, benefit the average citizen of the city of Detroit, because of this that's going on is in the downtown district, correct? And the tax dollars down there are not being used for the general public anyway. So this is another thing that we've got going here where you're taking away from the regular residents who've been paying for all of these things and all this stuff that we got here, and we can't benefit from you doing something downtown until they get rid of this downtown authority thing where the money is going. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. The next person in line for public comment is Stephen Howring. Clock is ready. All right, Stephen.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you may be heard, Stephen.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I just want to first say there definitely was some misinformation from some of the earlier public commenters, but I still do have a concern about the affordability you mentioned. $1,000 a month, that's a lot of money, especially for a one bedroom. I mean, that's technically because I make way over the average AMI, and that's a lot of money for me. So I just find that kind of concerning. And I've mentioned this before, because I serve on the NAC. And another thing is why office space? There's definitely, more of a need for hotels. With all the events coming out and more residential. You look at the Renaissance Center, it's a ghost town. Even
Thank you for those comments, Stephen. The next person on public comment list is Amara Hyman. Amara, you should be able to.
Yes. Yes, I have. I'm concerned about the amount of tax abatements and other types of these incentive instruments that you use to, to encourage development in downtown Detroit. Detroit is using business tax abatement programs for our economic development more than 4 of its peer cities, Cleveland, Columbus, Memphis, and Milwaukee. Between 2017 and 2021, Detroit averages $31 per resident per year in property tax incentives. This compares to an average of $13.50 per resident across those peer cities. And we should not forget that the DDA keeps whatever tax money generated downtown in.
All right. Time is up.
That's
Oh, right. Thank you for that.
I'm not being heard because the clock is stopped.
Yeah, the time ran out. So that's why we're muted. So thank you for your public comment. The next person is Tim Hinkle. Oops, I'm sorry, Tim, I accidentally.
There we go.
There you go.
Thanks. My name is Tim Hinkle. I'm a homeowner here in Detroit, and I'm just speaking really more about the Illich organization because I don't know as much about the Ross organization, but there's such a long history of unfulfilled promises by this developer. They mostly ignored the request from the Neighborhood Advisory Council for the OG District Detroit proposal. Maybe if they had the foresight to, I don't know, not demolish the Wolverine Hotel, the Madison Lennox Hotel, the Park Avenue Hotel, Elizabeth Street Lofts, and so on, many of which were demolished with public dollars, we'd have the kind of walkable neighborhood that we keep seeing in all these flashy renderings. And maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation now. And an earlier speaker spoke about Milwaukee. You go there, the city spent $250 million on those incentives, but they actually have a district. The arena's there, the district is there, you can see it, they got it done. How come they got it done, but we just can't seem to get it done here?
All right, thank you for those comments. The next person for public comment is Landis Spencer. Landis, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you are. Go ahead.
Yes,
Landis.
hi everyone. $1,000 a month is not affordable to the median single Detroiter, which makes $18K a year. It's actually laughable that you would come here and make the case that that's affordable income to the city's most vulnerable people. Another thing is that we shouldn't be giving Olympia any money because 5 to 6 years ago, you came to us promising a thriving neighborhood already, and you failed to deliver on those promises. I'm curious if you use the same renderings that you duped our city council people into accepting for this walkable neighborhood that you're showing us again. You have countless properties that have not been taken care of. You have countless lots that have not been developed. And the only reason why you have this large comprehensive project to try to sell us on now is because you've neglected to do that development over the years. These developers should not be rewarded this amount of money. It should go to Detroiters who need it. It should go to transit. It should go to housing. It should go to education. It should not go to these slumlords. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next person in line for public comment is Chris Gilmer Hill. Chris Gilmer Hill should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, can I be heard?
You can start.
Well, yes, I'm also speaking against providing these asked for incentives. I also think that, especially given the lack of real enforcement mechanisms and the incredibly shoddy history of follow through with this organization in particular, we just can't trust that these benefits are actually ever going to go to real Detroiters who need them. This isn't even just a question of the admitted fact that a lot of these benefits aren't coming to the city or the state for many, many years. This isn't just a question of the obvious fact that these aren't truly affordable. This is also a question of following through on even the minimal promises this developer has made in the past. Putting aside the fact that, with all due respect, it's a bit embarrassing and laughable for a group backed by the Illiches to for them to ask us to just trust them that they're going to get rid of surface lots. We genuinely can't trust a developer that in the past has taken incentives for replacing an affordable housing development with a giant parking structure. For that end, I'm encouraging a rejection of the substance.
Thank you for those comments. Next person is Caleb Rose. Caleb, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, I am Caleb. I am with the Democratic Socialists of America with the Detroit chapter, and I have a lot of issues with this program. First, number one, the big investors who are going to be into this, the Illiches have proven time and time again, especially from the last time the city gave them money, that they will not keep to their promises and only build to help their own self-interest, like when they built Little Caesars Arena and then left all buildings surrounding it completely unused and barren. And there are also residents in Detroit that are going to get kicked out of their homes in the poor communities that the city refuses to help. And they will basically be out in the streets. This money, instead of focusing on the downtown areas, which has been getting focused on since day one, should be going to these communities to help the poor and the people of color make their lives better. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next person in line is Greg Flynn Solish. Greg?
Hi, yeah, I'll keep it brief. I'd like to state my opposition to this plan, basically echoing what most people have said so far. This seems like another form of moving public funds into private pockets with very little short-term benefit or any benefit for long-term Detroiters at all. It seems to me that by putting the quote unquote affordable housing at 50% market price is simply just doing lip service with the intent of developing for the sake of the suburbs and not for longtime Detroiters. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next person in line for public comment is Aaron B. Aaron B. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm also a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. So, I'm not going to browbeat the point that, the Illiches and this development company specifically have, failed to meet the promises they've made in the past. But I am going to point out that when they promised to build a hotel or an apartment complex, they instead built a parking structure and were rewarded $75 million for doing so. So without looking too close into the plan, I'm not really persuaded that just because there's all these measures and promises in here that you're still going to follow through with them. The other thing I'm going to point out is during this entire time of taking questions and taking comments is you guys have been on your phones, on your laptops, chatting with each other. I'm not really inspired by how seriously you're taking the citizens of Detroit here.
Thank you for your comments. The next person in line is Gwen Peoples. Gwen, there you go.
Thank you so much. I sent in a comment. I'm Gwen Peoples, longtime resident of Detroit. Sit with the People's Platform, also Jefferson Chalmers community. I've watched tax-based money go up in smokes. It's not for those who need it. Downtown, if you look at all the apartments that you're going to rebuild, they look like a place that cats and mice can't get out of. There's no balcony. There's no room for children. You're talking about keeping people in a completed area that is closed in, and all those on the outside of downtown not being able to go. I did send in a public comment, and I hope you all read it. It was concerning the libraries. We can't even get libraries for Detroit. We can't get recreational centers. We don't need apartment buildings. We need people who have money going towards their homes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Peoples, for that. And we did receive your email that you sent, so thank you for that. We will be sure to add that to the packet that goes to the Brownfield Board and City Council. And the last person that I see with her hand raised is Deb Sumner. And Deb, you should be able to. You're muted.
Ow! It just.
Yes.
Yes, you may go ahead.
Yes, I think that what the taxpayers of our city needs to do, and I'm here in Southwest Detroit, I grew up here, I've, been here for all my life. And I'm in my senior. But we really have to revisit the structure of the tax abilities that the DDA captures, because there should be a cap like other cities. It's like 5% is a typical type of capturing that should go on. Very concerned about multi-billionaire developers' welfare that we seem to keep addressing and supporting them. And I have to do more homework on how exactly we're funding them. Okay.
Thank you for your comments. And the very last person I see, Erica Ferment. Erica, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Erica Ferment. I live in Farmington Hills. I just wanted to go in opposition to this development, like most of the commenters here. My question that I haven't heard is, what planet are we using public funds in the city of Detroit to invest in office space? In the year of our Lord 2023, after a gigantic office space market crash, this is a terrible investment. I mean, just from a purely economic perspective, this is not a good way to use public funds. This should not happen. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. The very last person for tonight, their hand raised will be Kantana Good.
Hi, Quinita. I listened to all of the comments and all of the questions, and I'm wondering what who was on that community advisory council that the developers say that they listened to. They didn't listen to Majority Detroit. And I'm wondering how they even sleep at night.
Thank you for those comments. That is the end of our public comment period for tonight.
Have you sneezed unusually anytime soon? No.
All right. Cindy, Dara, I see that we've been interrupted a few times. Were you trying to make public comment? So with that, we're at the end of our
yeah, I wanted to ask some questions. Just one thing,
one minute, please, Ms. Dara. You get the clock back up, and then you'll be allowed to make your comment, Ms. Dara, given that you were experiencing some technical problems.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, please wait while we get the clock back up, and then I'll let you make your comment. All right, I see that we have the clock up and looks like we're ready to go. All right, so Ms. Dara, if you can unmute yourself, we will. There you go.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It looked up earlier because we were trying to do it. It didn't work. Anyway, I'm trying to understand that average median income, it's for is it 3 counties or 1 county or 2 counties or what? And then if you say you're going to charge rent of 50% of whatever that AMI is, and that would, you won't go any over that for a certain size apartment, 1 bedroom, 2-bedroom. I don't know. See, I still like to see the real figures and all that, because I wouldn't want to pay even. I mean, I'm a cheapskate. I don't believe in high rent. I never charged high rent, and I think so. The thing I would like to see is the city own the property, because what happens in 35 years? Usually that's HUD stuff with affordable housing. They get.
All right, thank you for those comments. So that will be the end of public comment tonight. If we could get the slides show back up, just the second to last slide, so that we can have the email address back up. There we go. So again, if you have still have public comment, maybe you didn't feel comfortable speaking tonight, or maybe you were getting information and wanted to think about it, or maybe your community group has public comment. We are still accepting public comment. You can email that in to Cora Kapler. This is CCAPLER, CCAPLER at degc.org. We will accept public comment for the Brownfield Board through the close of business tomorrow, Tuesday, February 7th. And we'll, if those comments come in by that time, we'll be able to get those to our Brownfield Board. Comments received after that time, we will still send those on. Those will be a part of public comments for that will go on to the City Council as part of that. So again, feel free to continue to send those in if you have them. Also, feel free again to email with questions you may have, and we will provide answers to questions that you email in with. So with that, we are at the end of our public hearing for tonight for the Transformational Brownfield Plan for the District Detroit project. Thank you for everyone who came out tonight and attended. And again, the next meetings for this will be this week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board will meet. Go to degc.org/DBRA. And you will find the Zoom link for that. And also will be present in person at DEGC offices, where information is located for that. Or excuse me, the location is in the online information. And then next meeting after the Brownfield Authority will be City Council. So information will be coming out about City Council meetings after Wednesday's meeting. Thank you all for attending. Hopefully we will see more people at further meetings. Thank you.
Record.